Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendocha. This is Raging Verbalist number 91. And yes, we are back at it once again. This is kind of a special one. It's one that we actually would have done a couple of weeks ago, except which you'll find out what that all means and what that's all about. With me, as always, is the lovely Sandra. Welcome, Sandra.
Hello, how are you?
Doing better, doing well. So Sandra is in a pensive mood, everybody. So, but we don't have it. We don't have an answer yet, so we can't say it out loud. So quiet. Anyway,
that's right.
Let's kick it off. And for those of you who don't understand how this thing works, Sandra actually steps in for you as the listener, as the person out there, and asks the probing questions, the important questions, the things that we've talked about. And by the way, if you want to get your questions in, you can go to Position to Win book, Facebook group, and plug them in there. Say nice things. Sandra will bring them up and bring them to me. So also you go to positionwinbook.com, and we do have books back in. Yes, by the way, because we had run out, have books, so we can send you books. I can sign them, and away you go. All right. So with that, Sandra, kick us off for 91.
All right. So what was the road trip like to Freedom Fest 2021?
So for those of you who are regular watchers, I went to Freedom Fest. It was, I believe, the 8th time I've ever been to Freedom Fest. So my brother and I have been, marching there, and in fact, we had more people. So what we did is we decided that since we were going to do this kind of extended thing, Freedom Fest was in Rapid City, South Dakota. It's normally it is in Las Vegas, which is easy for me to get to. But no, it was in Rapid City. So Rapid City is not a place that's, I guess they still have planes that go there. They do, but not nearly as much as in other parts of the world, like Vegas. Anyway, so here was our travel. So this way you can follow. It's exciting. It's chills. It spills. It's fun. Is that I got on an airplane in Ontario, California, flew to Denver, Colorado. I connected with Gabe Bautista, my co-conspirator, co-author, and business partner, and we got together and we located Michael, who's my brother, and we all packed up into a van and away we went. We had carefully mapped this out. Unlike other explorers, we actually knew where we were going, and we had headed east and north at the same time. And we actually went to, of all places, Sidney, Nebraska. Now, for those of you who don't know what Sidney, Nebraska is, it is a wide spot in Interstate 80. And we found this Mexican restaurant, and we were all excited because, the reviews were pretty good. I mean, we're not talking like, 4 stars or anything, but it was nice. And what we were doing is, as we were driving over to it, with the nav system, is we found that this was located at inside of a gas station. Now, for those of you who have traveled the highways and byways, whenever you see a restaurant attached to a gas station, usually it's not that good. But this actually turned out to be a really cool family restaurant. It was great. Also, we had the fun of seeing an anomaly, a kind of a little time warp, a little Scooby-Doo thing. And it was a real Radio Shack that was still alive. And the good news about it is that we walked in. We did not get through the time portal, but we actually went into a live Radio Shack. So if you have a hankering to go to a Radio Shack, and no, they don't have the flashlight club anymore. Now that really dates me, but you'll have to go look that up. But you can go to a real Radio Shack in Sidney, Nebraska. Also, it is the town where Cabela's, am I saying that right, Sandra?
Yes. Cabela's.
So Cabela's, the chain of sporting goods stores, right? There's sporting goods and outdoor stuff.
Yep.
This is where they emanate from. So if you want to know where they were spawned from, I don't know if they drilled into the ground and Cabela's popped out or something. But anyway, there's a big ass Cabela's in Sidney. We did not have time to go there. So that gets us to Sidney, Nebraska. And I know you're on the edge of your seat. What happens from there? And that is we drove on to, of all places, Rapid City, South Dakota. And I can tell you that that was a pretty serious long ass drive. And we went through lots of wooded areas, lots of nothing in parts of Nebraska and in South Dakota. And we got to Rapid City. And but yeah, we made it through Nebraska into South Dakota. So that's kind of the first part of our trip.
All right. So what were the differences between pulling into Rapid City, South Dakota versus Las Vegas?
Well, this is the first time I've ever driven into Rapid City. So the anticipation was high. There was just electricity in the air. But unlike Vegas, because I've driven to Vegas hundreds of times, is that Vegas, you don't even know quite that it's there because there's like this little group of hills. But then you come around the corner and then there's like Las Vegas. And we kept driving and driving and driving and driving and driving. And we pulled in, and it was pretty surprising how, I guess you could say, how compact the town is. Is that a nice way to say it? And we ended up going to the outskirts of Rapid City because we had our connection with everybody, and ended up having a nice dinner and all that. But it was it was a little underwhelming. But I was like, well, we'll see how Freedom Fest is going to be. And there was a great turnout, 2,700 people, whatever that final tally was. I don't have the exact number. So that was pretty cool. Now, a lot fewer international people, so that was kind of subdued. But yeah, a lot of people in Rapid City, South Dakota. So, but we'll talk more about that in just a second. But it was not as exciting as Las Vegas. And, that was an understatement. So.
All right. So what's the one thing you never expected to find when you were in Rapid City?
Well, there's always something when you go to these places. And of course, we had heard about how just out of town there were, Mount Rushmore, and there was, Crazy Horse, and this is the gateway to Sturgis. And by the way, there were already people driving up in motorcycles and all that stuff. And the arena, or the convention center where Freedom Fest was held, they had a memorial. They had a piece of the Berlin Wall. And I never expected to see that. In fact, we have photographic evidence of all of us climbing. Well, we weren't climbing, but, standing by it, looking at it and all that. Now, the reason why that really impressed upon me is that my aunt, I guess it would be my great aunt, or maybe my great great aunt, was actually trapped in East Berlin by the wall. And in fact, my grandfather never saw her after his, when he went back to Germany in the early 50s, and never saw her again after. I mean, it was just like, it didn't happen. So that was kind of interesting, and a little bit, a little bit ominous, but it's kind of neat that when they chopped up the Berlin Wall, they sent it all around the world. And hopefully it's a reminder to everybody. And it was very poignant, given the fact that we were talking about Freedom Fest, to have a Berlin Wall, or a piece of the Berlin Wall, and all of these little placards to give people a reference of it. Frankly, I hope that we advance as a species to never have that kind of nonsense again. In fact, I can tell you, I remember the exact place I was at the day the Berlin Wall fell. I wasn't in a position, I'm talking about just because of my business obligations, I really felt like I'd like to have flown there. But I was able to close that loop by being there at, South Dakota, and there was the Berlin Wall. Now, what I can tell you that you might find interesting and that you might find helpful is that, we need to talk about how you're going to deal with the world going forward. And because of that, my suggestion is that, what you do is you think about getting yourself a copy of Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. It just takes you 3 to 5 years to realize it, Position to Win. Now, if you've not picked up the book, if you've not even looked it over, Go to positiontowinbook.com. Also go to Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble. You can get a physical copy. Get a physical copy. See, physical copy. Also, you can get the electronic version at Amazon, also Barnes and Noble Nook and Apple. And then if that wasn't enough for all of you out there in the remote part of the world, you can get Remote Work for a Better World exclusively in the Amazon Kindle, still only 99 cents. And it will help you in a big way working on Zoom meetings and all of those kinds of things. So hopefully you'll do that. Also, go to the Facebook group, go to the YouTube channel, lots of ways. And hopefully this helps you during these trying times. So let's go into Freedom Fest for just a little bit, because that's what we're talking about. And Sandra, what's the next question?
Yeah, so with that, can you talk a little bit about Freedom Fest itself?
So Freedom Fest, for those of you who don't know, are a bunch of libertarians of all kinds of stripes and shapes and all kinds of things, and get together once a year. In fact, Mark and Joanne Skousen put out the effort to put this together. And the nice part about it is that you meet lots of people. If you like vigorous discussion and debate, not saying everybody agrees with each other, I can guarantee you that. But what you do is you get to meet a lot of great people. In fact, part of what I did was in preparation for Freedom Fest and at Freedom Fest is that I did a lot of interviews of a lot of great people. If you haven't seen them on the Raging Verbalist, because we've been using, we've been putting these up as a bonus material. We also have a different site that you might want to go look at and check those out. We'll put a link down below. I think we can do that. But what you can also do is you can go check out It's a Paul World. And yes, it's all about Rand Paul and trying to get him elected in 2024 if he'll run. But more importantly, it's about trying to find free minds, free markets, freedom, which is what I'm all about. So the event is really pretty interesting. I ended up doing 40 interviews. That's 40. Lots of very interesting people. In fact, I shared some of that with you from Freedom Fest. It was kind of a little truncated version of the Raging Verbalist because we had limited time. And, you know, I got to tell you, to talk to that many people, you know, even for me as the Raging Verbalist, I mean, you know, the voice gets a little thin on that point in time, but it was pretty exciting. The event was interesting because it was a lot of, you know, again, how do you take an event that's been in Vegas for all this time and then bang, you know, you put it in Rapid City, South Dakota. One of the interesting people I got to talk to was Adrian, and Adrian is a world-class smart money manager guy. And if you haven't checked that out, I would say go check that out, because Adrian is a really cool guy. And you know, he is a smart money guy. So you definitely want to go check that out. And how about talk to Dr. Joe, who ran as a libertarian candidate for the presidency. That's pretty neat. I got to talk to her and a whole bunch of other people. So I would suggest that you go check those things out, and they'll keep appearing and they'll keep going on. So the event itself was pretty exciting, and we got to meet a lot of very cool and interesting people and spend some time in Rapid City, South Dakota.
I will note all videos are on the Raging Verbalist YouTube page. So yes, check those out.
Excellent. So
yeah. Okay. So what was it like having the whole team together?
So for those of you who don't know, I mean, it'd be very egotistical of me to say that, you know, I have all of this done miraculously, and it does happen in a miraculous way, but there's actually a real team behind this. Sandra, who is our content creation specialist, was there. In fact, she was taking lots of pictures with the really badass camera, which, you know, she pointed out to me, nobody touching my camera, or I hurt you bad. So I now know that. I know that really well. And then we had Felicia, and Felicia is a person who does media booking. So by the way, if you're listening to this and you want to book me for an interview, or you want to, in fact, do an interview, become interviewed by me, you can always, we can also get you in touch with that. And Felicia was there. By the way, Felicia happens to also be in Rapid City. I mean, how is that kind of the universe lining things up? because, she's new to the team. Gabe was there, and my brother was there, and we were just force five, and we walked around. Understand that all of my life I have had this mindset that if you want to be involved in something, you just got to dive in. You got to just be in that space and not even worry about it. Lots of people are very sheepish about it, but I just think of it this way. Maybe some point in time you want to be a pirate. Well, we were pirates, and we were sailing in Rapid City. I know some of that metaphor doesn't quite fit, but it was fantastic. I've never had the team together. We're a very virtual team, and it was a lot of fun. Sandra, did you have fun in Rapid City? I know you worked hard, but did you have fun?
Yes, it was very fun. It was interesting, fun to listen to people. I enjoyed it.
Excellent. All right. So what is the next most important question that we have here? What is that?
All right. So kind of along with all the interviews, who is the most surprising person that you talked to?
Well, when I look through the list, and it's a long list, and it's a very esteemed list, I would say again, I go back to Adrian Day. And the reason why, and he was actually the last person that we interviewed at that point in time. Once you hit a certain number, you might say, well, we can just kind of whiff it. We can just do that. Wow, was I glad that we didn't do that. So he was the most interesting surprise person in that regard, but even more so because, again, I was so focused last year on doing what I needed to do that I wasn't aware. So I'm going to give this a gender neutral thing, right? So we give one to Adrian. We'll also give one to Dr. Joe, because I did not realize that she was on all 50 state ballots, and she ran in the presidential election. I've never met somebody before who had run in the president. I mean, I've met people who say I'm running for the presidency, but usually they're in one of two categories. One is that they're trying to drum up support. The other is they're drinking malt liquor from a bagged can, yeah, I want to run for president. So yeah, I would say that both of them were really interesting people. There's a lot of interesting people, but those two are very, very much stood out as if you will, the dual champs, if you will.
Excellent. So what happened after you got back from Freedom Fest?
So we left Freedom Fest, and in fact, that's the cool part about how this thing works. Now, let me just point out to you that Rapid City, South Dakota struggled, and I say this politely, but struggled with having the number of people that we had added to their mix. Now, I know they have Sturgis Overflow, but this is a bunch of nerds and geeks and political talking people. So this is kind of that happened. So we ended up actually, even the very last day, walking out the door, running into somebody who I've affectionately called Mystery Mike, because for a while there we didn't know his last name. I know his last name now, but he'll always be Mystery Mike to me. So it's great because you get to meet lots of people. But what happened is that we then went to Mount Rushmore, and then I drove back with my brother to Colorado. And what happened after that is that I got worn out, tuckered out, and I ended up getting sick. And now I'm one of these people. For all you anti-vaxxers, don't send me negative comments. You have to make your own decision, because again, I'm a libertarian. But my decision is that I like the odds better, and I got hit with the Delta variant, and that really sucked that took place. So when I got back, I had to deal with that, and yes, I tested positive, and no, it was not fun. But the most important thing was that I made it through the other side. So now I should have enough antibodies to take on just about anything. Still telling people they should probably get vaccinated, because they should think about it. And whenever somebody says, yeah, but we don't even know, we won't know for a long time to know. But I know one thing, better to have had those bullets in the gun in terms of an immunity system that's already built up than not. So that's what happened when I got back. Boo hoo, not a happy occasion in that regard.
So, given those circumstances and getting sick, what's some advice that you would give to people that have like a similar situation or like an emergency? How do they steer the ship?
Well, one of the things I have to tell you is that if I'm one thing, I'm a sickness denier. So if I have something that's kind of like bringing me down, I mean, I have literally lost my voice being so sick, and I'm on the road. I lost my voice, and my wife said, "You got to call your doctor." And I called my doctor, and there was a woman at the time, and she said, "John, you should just stop talking, or I mean, even attempting to talk, and don't do that." And I'll never forget. I was there with one of my best sales reps ever, still a great friend of mine, and we went into this meeting, and all I could do was like squeak, "Ah!" And so I was the raging squeaker or squawker, and literally still did the sales call and kept going. So my suggestion may not fit you, but my thing is figure out a way to get lots of rest, get lots of fluids, but never give up working on things that you need to work on. Never, ever let the bastards get you down. Never let that circumstance stop you. Never let it end up putting you back on the back foot. I appreciate it if you're the kind of person who bundles up and just sits there and binge watches Breaking Bad. I got it. But for me, it was I just got to keep powering through it and see what I can do. Now I did, for me, I ended up sleeping like 6 hours a night instead of 4. So for me, that was like yikes. I mean, but still, you just got to figure out what you need to do. But most importantly, is don't let it stop you. And when it's done, know that you got to hit the ground running and keep going. Because if you don't, then you're going to give up on too much of life. I have seen so many people, especially during the last 18 months, maybe even longer. Now we're coming on 20 months where they have built-in excuses, and those built-in excuses stop them from doing what they need to do. So my suggestion to you is you get off your ass and you go get something done. And by doing that, you're going to have more success than you would otherwise. And I don't know if that's a good pep talk or not. I don't know if that's a kind and empathetic thing or not. But all I can tell you is that, you know what? You got to get up every single day. One of the most interesting people I ever sat next to, and this guy was kind of a crazy guy, and I was sitting on an airplane, and the guy I'm sitting next to, and we're flying to Vegas. So, by the way, all the flights into Vegas have happy, boisterous people anticipating they're going to win. All the flights out of Vegas have bummed out, pissed off, hungover, Coke headache, if you know what that is. If you never had one, you don't want one. Drained of all life forces and bank account, and they're not happy. Anyway, I'm flying to Vegas, and again, at this point in time, I had a condo sitting next to this guy, and I said, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Well, what I do is I own a dairy farm." I said, "A dairy farm? Well, that sounds interesting." And I said, "So, are we talking about a little dairy farm or a big dairy farm?" And he goes, "It's a big dairy farm." I said, "So what are you going to Vegas for?" And he goes, "Well, I wish I could tell you there was a convention, but I'm just going there to party." Now he was in his 50s. And I said, "Well, good luck, and I'm trying to give him some hints. This is when they were still serving alcohol in the airplane. And, we're barely off of the tarmac, and this guy wants to get a drink because he wants to get started for Vegas." And I said, "Well, probably going to add to your losing if you go to Vegas that way." And anyway, we have a nice conversation. And he finally reveals to me that his wife had passed away the year before. And now, I mean, yikes, that's sad. And he looks at me and he said, "The best part about being a dairy farmer when this kind of stuff happens." And I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "Every day you got to get up and know that you got to milk the cows no matter what happens in your life." And I wrote that down. And it's a great way to think, because every day you got to get up and get off your ass and get something done. I hope he had a good time. Looked like he was going to get in a lot of trouble, but it was, what do you get when you got a Wisconsin dairy farmer and got a snoot full and a pocket full of money looking for a good time? Well, no doubt he would probably find some of it there. So that's my words of wisdom for you, is that think of it this way. Every day you got to get up and you got to milk those cows or do whatever you do. And if you do that, you'll make it through and get to the other side. And with that, I just want to thank every single one of you who have supported us. Hit the like button, subscribe, check out the Facebook page, go to the website. There's some cool free stuff there. There's a positioning test. You can't fail it, but it'll teach you a lot. And it's positiontowinbook.com, and go check it out. And with that, this has been the Raging Verbalist. I'm John Paul Mendoza, along with the lovely Sandra, and we'll be talking to you next week on the Raging Verbalist.